WooColor 8 finally dropped its early access version, and I gotta tell you guys, I absolutely love it. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Sarah, and this is my studio. So we're out here in Studio Space 2 today, partly because I'm gonna be needing my Windows computer for this demonstration. So if you guys have been around my channel for a while, seen a lot of my content, you know I'm all about making things colorful. And 3D printing happens to be one of those areas where I've been playing around with different options for coloring. And there's many options today on how you can color a 3D print, to say nothing, of course, of just 3D printing it and painting it by hand. That is still a beautiful art form in and of itself, and I've seen some beautiful model pieces. But if you have a flat surface and you're wanting to try and create a colorful design on it, there are some additional methods that can be done using multiple colors and the automated material systems that are available for a number of machines. Now, there are a couple on the market that many people are familiar with, HueForge being one of the big ones, as well as the image to keychain function that you can use in Bambu Studio's Maker World. Now, both of these takes different approaches. Maker Studio does a sort of vectorized style design and really assigns a color so that it's a very vectorized piece, whereas with HueForge, you're actually creating various colors by doing assorted layering and can produce some really interesting effects. The downside, of course, with HueForge is that there is a steep learning curve there. I've played around with the software myself, and I still honestly struggle to try and understand it. It's fantastically designed. The creator deserves all the kudos in the world for what he's created and the community he's put together. It's just difficult for me to use, and I just can't seem to figure it out. Now, a couple months ago, I mentioned that there was a new kid on the block that was trying to kind of get themselves started up, namely that they launched a Kickstarter, but they already had at least one or two example prints in place to show off what they were doing, and that is WooColor 8. Now, WooColor 8 sort of bridges the gap between HueForge and Maker Studio in that you're kind of working with more vector style artwork, at least for now, but it's also using this layer property system that you have with HueForge, but simplifying it a little bit, primarily by working with specific colors. In this case, working either from just a simple black and white all the way up to an 8-color system, which uses CMYK and then white RGB. Now, the Kickstarter was successfully funded back in January. I happened to be a backer on the team. It was a fairly inexpensive risk to take, about $30. And the hope was that they would have a early access software to drop in early April, if not possibly sooner. Well, they dropped their early access model today, and I have been able to play with it. And I wanted to show you guys the results I got, as well as how to run this software if you perhaps also were a backer and are getting ready to play with it, or if you're interested in looking to see what's coming down the pipe that will be available soon to do your own creating. Now, the system is still in beta alpha stage, however you want to classify it. So it's not perfect, and there are definitely things that need to be worked on, and some things are still locked down. But the results that you can play with right now are honestly pretty impressive. So let me show you guys what they have going and some of the results that I've produced. Now, the first thing that you're going to need to do with using this new software is that you're going to need to use a vectorized image. Right now, the software is limited to using vectorized images and images that are vectorized but adequately cut out. That means there aren't areas that are overlapping. Now, if you have your own vector design that you want to work with and it meets those parameters, you can certainly use that. You could go in and modify something. That does take a little bit of time, or you could use a number of software that's available online to create a vectorized image. They recommend a couple of them. The one that one of the people in the Discord group had recommended was Vectorizer.ai, and I will say it does a fantastic job. In order to download the image, you do have to pay for it. I think it's a subscription plan. I know. But it's about $10 a month, I think, if I remember correctly. And personally, at least for me, I think it is certainly worth the cost right now. I will do a trial run and see how much of it that I use versus, whether or not I keep it. So going with that. But it's fairly easy to do. Basically, you just kind of drag and drop an image that you're working with. I just basically bring it in, I click OK, I let it process. As you can see, it processes pretty fast in my opinion. Once it gets it processed, it will load it and show me the results. As you can see, the image looks very similar to what I had already created. So once I'm good with that, I can click download, and then it gives me some various size options. You obviously want an SVG. I use 1.1 fill shapes, but then the biggest thing is to make sure that you place shapes in cutouts in shapes below and that they're not actually stacked on top of each other. And then I kind of leave pretty much everything clicked, medium line fit, group by color, doesn't matter a whole lot, but I will do that. And then I will click download and it'll drop the file over where I need it. So now that I've got my image, I'm going to bring it over into WooColor and show you guys how the software works. This is the software when it first loads. It basically has a simple screen saying click or drag to upload an image, non-overlapping vector graphic required. I'm going to click in and grab my file and click open. It'll show me it, and then we go to process step by step. So this is what it looks like when it comes in. There isn't a lot of things to play with right now, and some things are admittedly locked down. What I want to do with this image is I can go over here, I can tell the size of it. This kind of gives it a scale, and then you can also tell it layer height, your options being 0.08 or 0.1 millimeter. I'm using 0.1 millimeter just because it's a more rounded number, and it allows the model height to be a little bit easier to get to like an even number. So for instance, at the moment, it has a base thickness of 2 and 4 color layers. That is the number of color layers that it's going to be printing, and then additional layers over it that'll just be essentially white. That way, if you want the print to be a little bit thicker, it can be. So for instance, I tend to do 1 millimeter prints. So that might be overkill for some people, but that's kind of what I do my bookmark thickness as. So that's why I'm shooting for that. So you can do 4 color layers, you can do less, you can do more. 4 is kind of what's recommended at least. And you want to enable the base plate. I haven't played with that, so I've left that checked at the moment. And then you can pick the color mode. You have the option to do white, black, white, red, yellow, blue, yellow, black, white, red, green, and blue, sort of a 6-color option. This is for people who have sort of the the H2DC, where you have the ability to do 6-color nozzle changes, or they have a 8-bit system, which has the CMYK and the white RGB, which is what I've been playing with since I have 2 AMS units, and I happen to have pretty much all those colors in stock. Or at least I sort of did. I didn't have a proper cyan, if you will. I had a sky blue Polymaker Terra that I used initially, and I ended up ordering the Sunlu cyan as well as some Sunlu white, because on the Kickstarter they mentioned they played with either the Bambu ones or they played with Sunlu and got good results. And since those were 2 colors that would show up overnight from Amazon, I went ahead and got those 2. And I will say there's definitely a difference in color between the sky blue and the cyan, and I'm getting better results now that I have a proper cyan color. So once you pick your color method, you're going to want to click color decomposition. It's going to extract the colors, figure out what it needs to see, and then from there, if you want to do any color editing, you can by clicking that and making some adjustments. I typically don't. Now, there's other options in here. Things aren't completely enabled. For instance, material list right now, it's fixed at the moment, and it just shows you it's got it basically set to the Bambu, blue, green, red, white, black, yellow, magenta basics. Again, right now I'm playing with what I have on hand. So some of those are Polymakers, some of those are Sunlus, and actually at least one of the colors is a proper Bambu color. I have the Bambu green that got shipped with my machine, so I do have that shade. Other parameters, you can kind of say whether it's detail priority, structure priority, pixel mode, and of course you can tell it which printer you're going to do. And then after you've got your model created, you basically click the model generation button and let it generate its model. Now, depending on your computer, this could take a little while. With mine and my graphics card, it took about 3 minutes to process this image. Not too terrible, but once it gets processed, it will let you know, and then you can click the save button and save it out and then load it over in Bambu Studio. And it'll look a little weird, partly because it, at this point, does layers in different colors. And again, that overlay effect is going to give you those multiple colors. So now it's just a matter of going in and changing settings. In their help section over here, they are going to show you kind of an operation guide, as well as the process I'm going through. But then they're also going to go through the slicing and import settings, how you want to load the colors into your machine, and then all of the numbers that you need to do and go in and fix. You have to change your printer setting just a little bit. They have the Z-hop type as slope, and then they want to make sure that the Z-hop type override is not on your filament. Mine was already checked off. And then they've got the process settings listed in here as well, mostly getting the layer height as well as changing the wall, making sure the transition angle is set to 59. Most of these all kind of line up. There's some changes with strength, top and bottom, shells, infill overlap, and all of that. Some of these I already had in place anyway, because I had gone ahead and done their test file and they sort of had these parameters listed for that before. So I have my settings already kind of set in here, and I have played around. I've got two different ones in here, and part of that is because I actually changed the acceleration speed, turning things down a little bit with travel on the initial layer just to try and get a good bed adhesion. I was having some trouble with that. I think part of that was honestly the plate itself, because I did end up actually getting myself one of the, I think it's ByQ's glacier plates, which is a cool plate, and it's known for being super adhesive and being really good for holding a print down. And I put that in the machine and ran a different print on it. And let me tell you, you want to talk about first layer corn. It was beautiful to watch it stick the way it did. Now, granted, that was using my slightly slower travel settings versus the default fast ones. Compared to overall print time, I don't think it made a huge difference, because this one, being the fact that I'm stress testing it with a lot of colors, is going to take a little while. But if you're having problems, try playing around with the acceleration and the travel settings. That can help a little bit with stringing and possibly some bed plate adhesion issues. There's that. Now, the purging volumes are all for some reason set to 280. I typically go in here and change things to 0.5, recalculate it. Honestly, I probably could go even smaller, but that's what I have it set to. And then you just click Slice Plate. Now, this is also a process that's going to take a couple of minutes depending on your computer and given the complexity of the print. The good news is that once you slice it the first time, if you make some slight adjustments to like picking what plate you're using, or if you're adjusting the settings a little bit, it does slice much faster the second and third time, because it's kind of already done that. It's really just adjusting G-code. But once it's sliced, I will show you how long it's going to take to print. There we go. Now I've got it sliced. So the estimate for this one is for about 4 hours and 12 minutes. And that has it with, as you can see, 4 colors, and then it's got the additional tops. Once I have that set, I send it to print. And honestly, guys, the results I got were pretty impressive. So let's get this one printed and I'll come back and show you the results. This is the result that I got with the 8-color print. And as you can see, this turned out absolutely beautiful. I really like this. There's lots of color depth in here, and it's a good rendition of the picture originally. Now, I did go on and do the same art, but using the additional settings, such as the 6-color, the 4-color, and then the 2-color. And with the 6-color, you get this looking kind of result, as you can see. A little more lacking with pinks and cyans, obviously, because that's the 2 colors that you're not using, which for this piece might be critical. For others, it might not be. If you're just doing the white and the red, yellow, blue, it looks like this, as you can see. So again, a little more blown out. And then the black is not as true black, because that's being eliminated, and you're creating that by combining all of the colors. Though that is kind of a neat effect as well. And then the last one, of course, is just what you get if you're doing a black and white image, as you can see. That's currently what you can do with the software. I think it's got a lot of potential. Like I said, there's still some bugs and some kinks they're ironing out. The big one really being the fact that any additional layers done on top after the print have some sort of pockmarking going on with it. I found that if I just put a additional cube part, or if perhaps the print is like an SVG shape, you could probably import that in and just put it on top and have it layer through what was supposed to be the white layers. That'll create smooth ones, and that'll eliminate a little bit of time with your printing, making it a tad faster. I've shown a number of different ways that you can color 3D prints on this channel. Outside of just the typical hand painting, you've got, like I said, the image to keychain. You've got Q4 as an example, though I haven't really shown how to do that because I'm not very comfortable with it. There's this method. And then of course there are things like, UV printing as well as sublimation. I've shown where you guys can sublimate either on a previous print if you're very careful with pressure and temperature, or just printing the print directly on the sublimation paper and getting pretty decent results. Each one has its place, and one of the things that I really like about this style, as well as doing the image to keychain, is there's something about it that gives it a painting feel. Like I'm actually painting with materials. I'm painting with filament. And to me, it just gives this unique, vibrant result. It's almost like there's a little bit of life that's being given to the piece, rather than if I were to just take and create a blank and run it through the UV printer, which I've done that with some of my bookmark designs. Granted, it takes far less time, but when I look at the two of them, there's something about doing it with directly printing filament into the shapes that, I don't know, just gives the piece a little bit more life. That could be me. That could just be my artist brain stirring a little bit and saying, I like this better than that. I don't know. But either way, these are all options. Work with what you have. Like I said, this software is early access at the moment. So if you're a person who backed the Kickstarter, you have access to the software. It should hopefully in the next couple of months, as they finish, kind of finalizing things, working out some of the kinks, it will be available to the public for purchase. That's pretty much all I have for you guys today. If you want to see more content like this, by all means, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Also, if you could tap the like button to tell the Eldritch algorithm that this video was a good one. In the meantime, if you want to see more of my content, I highly recommend these two videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!